Hey everybody, welcome to Automatic Reviews. I am Mark. This is the short version of the SBGR317 review. It's not, super short, but it's shorter than my usual videos. I'm also simultaneously releasing a long version, which gives you more info and, more opinion and all the rest of that. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out. It's on my channel. Okay, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight to the review. This watch measures 40 millimeters diagonally, 42.2 millimeters including the crown. Lug to lug it's 46 millimeters. Factoring in the overhang of the end links, it is 48 millimeters. The watch is a substantial 13.2 millimeters thick. It weighs 144 grams. The detailed crown is screw down and it measures 5.8 millimeters in diameter. Between the lugs it is approximately 19 millimeters. The case is made from stainless steel and features a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces, including polishing of the famous Zaratsu variety, which is just basically a mirror, a super distortion-free mirror polish. It also features drilled lugs. Covering the perfectly smooth pitch black lacquered dial is a very slightly double-domed sapphire crystal with AR coating applied only on the inside. In very direct, very bright light, the dial reveals a fine sunburst effect, which almost appears matte. It also features an applied Grand Seiko GS logo and high-quality printed text, as well as a chapter ring. It also features a date window that is nicely framed, and it does have a quick set date function. This unit comes on a stainless steel bracelet that features 5-piece links with a mixture of brushing and polishing. It does come with half links and no micro adjust, and it features a firm milled push button clasp that has the logo with a mixture of brush polish and sort of a textured blast on the interior of the little frame here. So it's quite detailed and very nice. Inside the case there, beating away with a 28,800 BPH, is a 9S65 automatic movement. It is decorated with a variation of sort of a Geneva stripe style, but with a sort of Grand Seiko's own twist. It features 35 jewels and was adjusted to 6 positions and 3 temperatures by a master watchmaker. In over 3 weeks of a mixture of wear, rest, and winder, the watch was running at less than 1 second fast, which is just incredible. It has a sapphire case back that you're looking through, but it's interesting. It's very difficult to film. There you can slightly see it here. It also has a Grand Seiko lion logo, the circle there, etched into the sapphire itself. The watch features a very useful 72-hour power reserve. It also features hacking and hand winding. The watch is water resistant to a very reasonable 100 meters. It does come with a 3-year manufacturer warranty, and a service is recommended to be done at a 3-year interval, and it's reasonably priced at about, I think, 400 USD, about 500 Canadian. But the Zaratsu repolishing of the whole piece is quite costly, in the neighborhood of, I believe, something like 800 US dollars if you had the whole watch done. But I think the case itself is something like $300 or $400. Pricing is about $5,700 Canadian, or about $4,100 US. I'm just gonna get a wrist shot out of the way quickly, because everyone always wants that, and they're always like, where's the wrist shot? So this is what it looks like on my 7-inch wrist. Talk briefly about the lows on this watch. I think sort of objectively this watch needs a micro adjust, or could benefit from a micro adjust, and that's kind of the elephant in the room here. It is difficult to dial in a perfect fit on this watch that will fit under all sort of heat and sweat conditions, and since it's adjusted with screws, it's a little time consuming to fix that, and I would say that qualifies as a low. I also want to talk a little bit about this screw down crown. I find you unscrew it completely and it feels like it's completely unscrewed, but if you just go to pull it out, it feels like, you might catch your nail on the threading, or there's something about, pulling it out. So I find the system that I've sort of implemented, and it does work, I guess, basically perfectly, but I think it's odd that it has to work this way, is I keep unscrewing it. I unscrew it, and then I pull and unscrew, and then I feel like it just kind of comes out. The first position will bring you to the date quick change. If you turn it clockwise, you're going to get the date flipping, but if you turn it counterclockwise a little bit as you pull out, to the next sort of stage, which is the time setting position, I think that helps it pull out more smoothly. It's an eccentricity. I don't think it's a big deal, but I'm going to call it a low, because I don't see why it is this way. Yeah, just to talk a little bit about the box as a potential sort of potential negative, I probably call it more of a mid, because I don't think it really affects your enjoyment of the watch in any real practical way, other than in its sort of keepsake status. And then perhaps for just, if you're really picky, Because it's not to the standard of the watch. This is a watch that will last generations and generations. This is a box that probably will not. I think that, you know, their thinking is, why spend tons of money on it? I can see that both ways. That's kind of why it's a mid. It's not really a distinct negative. It's just, for me, I think it could have been something they might have done differently. It does wear a tad thick at just over 13 millimeters. I don't personally mind that much, so that's why it's a mid for me. But I think for some people, I'm guessing that if they got it down to about 11 and a half even, that not a single person would complain that it wears thick. So I think that that's something they could do. I kind of like a chunkier watch, so yeah, again, for me that's not a negative, but I could see that being a negative for some people. Bracelet play. The bracelets on Seiko are often described as kind of loose, and I don't disagree with that overall appraisal, but I think it misses something, and that is especially true with these high-end pieces of the Grand Seiko line. At best, people credit these bracelets for adding a comfort by being more flexible, and at worst they get called cheap compared to their Swiss competition, which tend to be rigid and firm with very, very tight tolerances. But I think that's what's missed is the bracelet is designed to flex in a sort of slightly conical profile, to move up the wrist as it widens. I feel like you can adjust it slightly tighter than you would other watches, and it'll still have the ability to move a little bit up and down your forearm, because the watch can flare, essentially, flare open. With a Swiss watch that was adjusted to the same tightness level, the watch would sort of be locked on one part of your wrist. So I think this was an intentional sort of design idea. So that's a bit of a mid here, because I can't say that this is a bad idea. I just think it's subjective. It depends on how you feel specifically about it. I think I'd be absolutely fine with it if it had a micro adjust. Another mid is the crystal anti-reflective coating is only on one side. This is a mid only because I love photographing and filming watches, and this contributes greatly to the challenging aspect of doing so. For some people, it will frustrate them to no end. But for me, I actually think it's almost a pro, because I do want a watch that's durable. Some people criticize the fit of the clasp, right? I'll talk about that briefly. There's a little bit of a space here, you can see, between the bracelet and the clasp. That's because they don't want this part of the bracelet becoming burnished. It actually never catches on anything. It has no negative effect. I actually don't even think it looks bad. Some people obsess over it. They just simply don't want this watch to have this really worn-in, shiny part right here. That's because they just want this watch to wear well for a really long time. The clasps all kind of close crookedly, slightly, very slightly. The clasp mechanism has two sort of pincers. It kind of scissor closes like this on the pin that comes down the middle. And I just believe that they think it's worth it kind of pulling the clasp slightly crooked to keep this really simple, really elegant, really functional design inside the clasp, rather than create something that maybe holds it perfectly like this, but adds bulk and then maybe adds complication that they don't know how it will, last over the long haul. Another mid, it's a fingerprint magnet. Look, shiny things are fingerprint magnets. Beautiful things are usually fingerprint magnets. Almost every very good-looking thing gets described as a fingerprint magnet. It's worth a mention, but it's not a super negative thing. Scratches, they will come and they will show. The Sarasu polishing is going to show damage, maybe not more easily, but more tragically than other forms of finishing. Rest assured, you can have it repolished, but I would say that the fact that, it's going to scratch is not something that should deter you from wearing it and enjoying it. So that's my personal opinion. I think the 19mm lug is worth a mention. I think that's a frustrating dimension. What would have been the harm of adding 1mm and making it easier to buy straps for this watch? So yes, odd lug widths, always kind of frustrating, and this is no different. I think finally in the mids, I'm going to say as a social media watch, a lot of the things I've already touched on kind of cover this. It's going to accumulate visible scratches. It's a fingerprint magnet. The AR coating is not that great because it has all these sort of polished, dazzling surfaces. You've got the glossy dial and these polished indices and these polished hands and, all these different, the way it catches the light, very, very difficult to film. I don't think it's the perfect Instagram or YouTube watch for that in that respect. In person, it'll blow you away. But when you're filming it and when you're trying to show it off, I think if that's your deal, then it's a more negative thing, and that's why I'm going to put it as a mid here for me. Let's just talk about some of the great aspects of this watch. This watch has an incredibly timeless design. That kind of brings me to this idea of this GATA watch, this go anywhere, do anything watch. That's what this watch is. I do think, you could dress this watch up, wear it with a suit, wear it to a formal event. And of course you could wear it with, jeans and a t-shirt. You could wear shorts and a t-shirt. You could wear it anywhere, and it's got the water resistance to make it durable, and it is actually just a very durable movement. It has good shock protection. Of course, you wouldn't want to wear it golfing or something like that because of the G-force. You shouldn't wear any automatic watch under those circumstances, but anywhere you could wear an automatic watch, you could wear this one. It's lovingly made, and it absolutely shows. This watch has been made with care. It has been made lovingly by a master craftsman, and the fact that you can have something that appears this perfect, that was made basically entirely by hand, is kind of insane. The MEMS process, I talked about it a little bit earlier when we were talking about specs, but the parts in this watch, while they're hand selected and hand assembled by a master, they are initially made by a very, very controlled computer process, which really, really makes these parts with incredible accuracy. The processes that they've invested into at Grand Seiko are paying off. I'll talk a little bit about the fact that it is regulated by a watchmaker. This watch, wasn't just regulated by a watch factory employee. An actual watchmaker adjusts this watch and monitors this watch and makes sure that it functions as well as possible. And I think that's an incredible fact about Grand Seiko watches. They are made entirely by master watchmakers. I do want to talk a little bit about the Zaratsu polishing. Let's see if I can get the angle just right to show you how insane the Zaratsu polishing is. Okay, here. Okay. So I'm using this piece of cardboard that came with the watch box that I've been using lately, and I can do a review on that for you guys if you'd like. Just let me know. It's quite well priced, and I'm enjoying it. But you can just see the incredible quality of the mirror polishing on this watch, as it just reflects like an actual mirror. It's like I'm taking a little hand mirror and holding it up against this text. That's how incredible the Zaratsu polishing is. The hands are like almost like blades. They're like, the second hand is rounded. The actual a minute and hour hand are almost look sharp, like you could take them out and perform an operation with them, like little scalpels. And the indices themselves are also just produced to such a high quality level. And one of the consequences of that is it's incredibly legible in low lights. I could have said that a negative was, or a potential negative, like a mid, was that it didn't have lume. But I actually think under most low lighting situations, this watch is more legible than watches with lume, especially because often the lume isn't charged when you need it to be. So yeah, you can't charge this watch up with your flashlight if you're going to go into a very, very dark environment, but for most use case scenarios, you're not doing that. You're looking at your watch in a dim hallway, and yeah, this watch, because of all these polished surfaces and because of the inclusion of the brushing, they've really accommodated every situation, and it's extraordinarily legible. It's my most legible watch, actually, in low light. So I think the lume thing's been overblown by some people. I'm going to actually go as far as saying it's a pro, it's a high, as opposed to even being a mid. Another high for me is the display case back. I love a display case back, especially when the movement is this gorgeous, and so for me that is a definite high. I just want to talk about a little bit of the amazing value for money. Geez, in its segment, you're not going to get anything close to this level of quality for this money. I mean, this is not a cheap watch by any means, but the way in the quality of the movement, the fact that it has been handmade and hand regulated and hand finished, and the level of the polishing and just the overall quality that it exudes, you will not touch that for anywhere less than maybe 3 times the price of this watch. To get to my next point, a multi-generational piece. And to buy a piece that is considered, that should last for multiple generations and will be, that your descendants will want to wear this watch, will want to have this watch because it's special and it's super high quality. That brings me to the name, Grand Seiko. I love that this is a super, super high-end watch you can wear anywhere, and then people aren't going to be like, oh, what's that, Rolex? Like, I don't particularly like wearing watches with recognizable brands. Recognizable to non-watch people, that is.
if I'm going to have a conversation about my watch, I want it to be with somebody who has a passion for watches, so we can have sort of a substantive conversation. I don't want to just have a conversation with someone who's going to be like, "Whoa, how much was that? Oh, that's so expensive." You know, I mean, again, I'm not trying to be a snob, but I think if you're a watch person, you're going to know what I mean. And I think that this Grand Seiko has that about it in you know, absolutely to the max. And I like that. I like that it's got that subtle kind of watch code thing going for it, and that is to me a definite high. It's overall just an all-time classic. This is what you'd kind of call, a lot of people call, a perfect watch. It just does everything. It looks gorgeous. It keeps wonderful time. It's a great value. That's kind of one of my concluding elements here. This watch is nearly perfect. I mean, it does have some flaws. I have described them, but wow, if it isn't just a fantastic, fantastic watch. Okay, so my conclusions about the SBGR317. Should you buy this watch? Of course, as with everything, it's completely subjective. If this watch speaks to you, if you're in the market for a very high quality luxury timepiece with an amazing movement and incredible craftsmanship, if you want something that's different than what a lot of people out there are wearing, if you want something with the sort of the watch geek kind of cool factor, this watch has that in spades. And what it also has is it has, as I mentioned in the review, it is a watch that you're going to keep. You're going to give it to your kids. They're going to give it to their kids. This is a really, really fine timepiece. And if that's what you're looking for, and if you like the way this watch looks, and you want something reliable, that keeps excellent time, that is just, that's beautiful, and that's made with a lot of care and sort of loving craftsmanship, this might be the watch for you. And hopefully this video has helped you make your decision. And if you are watching the short version of the video, if you feel like you need more information, there is a long version of the video as well. And if you are watching the long version of the video, then you've already seen all that extra information, and hopefully that was helpful to you. I'm making the one conclusion for both videos. It's just a time saver for me. But anyways, guys, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I do encourage you to check out my other videos, and maybe there's some information in there that could be helpful to you as well. So thanks for watching. Bye.